Hello, I'm Jeff Paur, senior writer for RealTime Fantasy Sports, and welcome to RT Sports Weekly. I am thrilled to bring you another edition of RT Sports Weekly here on Twitch. I'm going to do this on a weekly basis for the whole season. If you didn't watch last week, I'll tell you a little bit about the reason for the show, RT Sports Weekly. I wanted to dedicate it to the community here at RealTime Fantasy Sports. I just think we have a great community, and I will talk about some of the owners that are doing well in our content, add them out there. I also want to update people about our site, anything going on there, anything going on from this past week, questions we have from our support, tips we have on how to use our site as well. So all different things. I just want to dedicate this stream to the real-time fantasy sports community. They deserve it. They're the best community out there. So I'm thrilled to do it, and I'm excited to bring you another RT Sports Weekly this week. And let's talk briefly about last week, though, before we get into the rest of the stream. Interesting week of games. It wasn't quite as high scoring, but if you had Aaron Jones or Derrick Henry, good work. Man, those guys produced some huge games this past week. They carried fantasy teams to victory all by themselves, so they had big weeks. I'm not sure about you, but I hardly have any stock of either of those players on any of my teams, so I did not have a very good week in week 2. But like I told people in my latest column, don't get too high or too low at this point of the season. We're just 2 games in. A lot of things can change, either good or bad for your teams. It's a long season, especially this year with another game added as well to the schedule. So the fantasy season goes a little longer in most of your leagues. So you have time to make it up if you got off to a slow start. If you got off to a great start, that's great as well. It'd rather be good than bad. So good work in getting off to a great start. But don't get too high on yourselves. Things can change in a hurry. Shout latest news out there. Antonio Brown, receiver for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, he's been placed on the reserve COVID list, so there's a good chance he's not going to play this week. He's going to need to have 2 negative tests 24 hours apart to be eligible to play for the game Sunday against the Los Angeles Rams. So that's something to keep in mind. If you have Antonio Brown on your roster, might need to find a replacement, and you should do that sooner than later. Remember, waivers run tonight on our site, so get those waivers in. If you're in any of our money leagues and your commissioner services as well, most of your league waivers run tonight as well. So get those waiver bids in there. And there have been some questions on the waiver wire process. That was the thing that I asked our support users, what are our users asking you? And one of the things was waiver wire questions. So I just want to remind quickly how this works. If you want multiple players, you don't just line them up in one bid. You have to have multiple bids. So you have to have multiple claim groups. You'll see claim group 1, claim group 2. So if you want contingency bids, totally fine. Make a claim group 1. If your top bid, say, is KJ Osborne this week, you put him at the top of your bid, and you want to put some contingency bids in after that because you want to find a replacement for Antonio Brown. Great. Put in some other receivers in that bid, but that doesn't mean you're going to get all the receivers in that claim group. If you want another receiver in addition to KJ Osborne, you need to make another bid for that player. So you need to make another claim group, which would be claim group 2. You can make multiple claim groups if you want multiple players as well. That's how it works. It's not just one claim group putting in a bunch of players. You're not going to get all those players. You need multiple claim groups if you want multiple players to have a waiver. So feel free to go ahead and set up waivers that way on site. That was the big issue with our support. As always, if you have any issues at all with anything going on, we're more than happy to help here at RealTime Fantasy Sports. We have a great customer service team with Logan and Dane leading the way for our support team. So if you have any questions, email them at support@rtsports.com. They're happy to help, always there for you, so please don't hesitate to do that. And also, on my end, if you have any questions at all, fantasy-wise, if you have any fantasy start-sit questions with that as well, I'll answer those questions. You can email me, jeff@rtsports.com. Also, hit me up on Twitter. You can look at me. Look at my Twitter handle. It's @JeffPaur, JEFFPAUR, and it's @JeffPaur for Twitter. I do a Twitter chat every week on the site. So if you want to get some questions into me that way, you can do that. You can email them to me. Also on this stream right now, you can put them in the chat. Happy to answer any questions you might have pertaining to fantasy for this week, for the weeks ahead as well. So don't hesitate to email me if you want, jeff@rtsports.com, or hit me up on Twitter Jeff Paur, JeffPaur. And also, I do a weekly Twitter chat as well on Thursdays at this exact same time. So I'm there. I dedicate 1 hour each week to just answering questions, making sure I get to all those that you might have. Come in there on Thursday, ask me a question. I'm happy to all that other stuff out of the way. I'm going to go to that page where you can see the winners of our contest right now. The guys leading our contest right now, they're not the winners just yet. So let's take a look at the page for that. Actually, I'm on the wrong one right now, but there it is. So this is the Fantasy Championship standings, the regular season standings right now. After 2 weeks, Sooners 99, parentheses, Carr is winning the championship after 2 weeks. So great work to him. He is the only team with more than 400 points. He actually has a 15-point lead right now, which is pretty impressive considering we're just 2 weeks into it. So we'll see if he can keep it up. But a great start to his season for Sooners 99. Let's look at his team from this past week. He had Kyler Murray. That's been a common theme for a lot of the top owners right now because Murray's off to a fabulous start. But he had Melvin Gordon, Nick Chubb, Darrell Henderson as well. They didn't do great this week, but they produced some points. Cooper Kupp, big performer. Sterling Shepard as well. Amari Cooper was a bit of a disappointment. Travis Kelce was great too. So the three players of Kupp, Kelce, and Murray kind of led the way for the Sooners 99 team in his victory, putting up 181 points. And if you look at his bench, he actually left Mike Williams and Marquise Brown on his bench, Daniel Carlson as well. So he left some points on his bench, still produced big. He's probably going to want to get Mike Williams in the lineup, maybe for one of these running backs with Melvin Gordon and Darrell Henderson kind of, up in the air on a weekly basis, not sure things. So he might end up doing that for his flex spot going forward. So good start to the season for Sooners 99. Let's look back at the second place team. So that's Super Bowl II. Again, he didn't put his name in there. He has 391 points. He sits about 15 points behind the top player for the fantasy championship right now. Tom Brady, common theme, but then he had Derrick Henry and Aaron Jones. Holy cow. 219 points this week for the Super Bowl II team. That was just a monster week for him. TJ Hawkinson as well. He had multiple 15-plus points from all his receivers, too, with Godwin, Lamb, and Higgins. I'm guessing he didn't leave much on his bench. He actually had Rondale Moore on his bench and Rob Gronkowski, too. So he has some depth here, too. So fantasy looking pretty good here right now. His start of the season looks great. So after the fantasy championship, after 2 weeks, we have Sooners 99 first, Super Bowl II in second, then Dark Matter 6 right behind Super Bowl II in third, and then we have Mark Bacon and Taz Abila. Apologize if I mispronounced your name, but they were on the leaderboard last week as well. I think they're in a similar spot. We can look at his team. Yeah, he has Kyler Murray as well, Christian McCaffrey, Corey Davis, A.J. Brown, C.D. Lamb. So as well, Irish CEO is Peter Valaitas. Sorry, apologize, Peter. I'll just say Peter. His team's in 6, so good work with him. He has Patrick Mahomes, Derrick Henry. So we see a lot of these Derrick Henry owners moving up the board because of his monster game this past week. Joshua Galias, he is in 8th. And then we have a fantasy player, and then Smash 10, Daydreamer, and a lot of good owners out there making some headway here in this fantasy championship. It's good to be near the top. Let's take a look and see what team has a 1-1 record who's up here. So we have Blue Bayou, first team, coming in 26th overall. He's 1-1, actually lost a game despite putting up big point totals. Again, it doesn't mean the end of the world if you are not winning all your games in this fantasy championship as long as you're scoring points. So if you're putting up points, you're going to advance. So that's the fantasy championship after 2 weeks. He's first overall, 406 points. And him. Let's look at the best ball championship now. Let's see if this comes up here. There it is, best ball championship. So Richard Mallon has the first and second place teams overall in the fantasy best ball championship right now. Impressive stuff from Richard. He's one of the top players on our site. He has the first and second overall teams, 441 points, 438 for his first and second place teams. Let's look at these teams now. The first one is Rainbow Action. He has Patrick Mahomes on this roster, another owner with Derrick Henry, Aaron Jones, so just huge numbers there. Then he had Tony Pollard, too, at a big week. Tyler Lockett, Marquise Brown, Rob Gronkowski, Colts, and Bucs defense. Man, this was just a huge week of scoring for this team. Very impressive. And he had some point bench too. Russell Wilson, Jalen Hurts, those guys produced big games as well. McKissick too. DeAndre Swift kind of was not the best this past week, so that's one of his better players that didn't do great. Brandon Cooks had a good week, didn't get to use those points, so impressive showing for Richard Mallon here with this first-place team right now. See similar players. He has Derrick Henry again, another reason why he's sitting so close to the top. Kirk Cousins, though, was his quarterback. Jalen Hurts, Ben Roethlisberger, his other options at QB, and that's kind of a good triumph for other players that can rotate, get you some points, hopefully based on good matchups. He had Austin Eckler, Tony Pollard, Marvin Lockett, Darren Waller, Colts defense, and Tampa Bay Buccaneers as well. So Tampa Bay Buccaneers on both of his squads for his defense. Let's look at his bench. DeAndre Swift, kind of disappointed for him. He has Zach Wilson too at QB, so he has 4 of them. So he's hoping one of those guys hits each week. Looks like he kind of waited on that position in this draft and hits each week. Good strategy to use, and I think it's going to be a good one for this team because he has some good talent on it, as you can see up and down the team. So Richard Mallon, first place teams in the Best Ball Championship. Another one of our favorites on the site, Ralph Schiavon. He has the 4th and 5th place team. So Ralph made a big move this past week. I did not mention his last week. I don't believe I did. Ralph's one of the players that I've interviewed on our site several times. He's a great guy, and he's one of the favorites on our site here at RealTime Fantasy Sports. So good work to Ralph. Let's look at his team. Russell Wilson, Derrick Henry, Cooper Kupp, Rob Gronkowski. So I know Ralph is a big Derrick Henry guy. So yeah, he has him on both teams as well. So you can see why he's doing well in this one after Henry's big week in week 2. Look at a couple other owners. Darren Larson's up there. Greg Paduk, fantasy player A. That's Richard Mallon. So he has a 12th place team as well. So good work to him up here. So that's the fantasy championship. 441 points leads away Richard Mallon with his Rainbow Connection team. Okay, let's look at the Real-Time Fantasy Sports. We're going to look at the championships in this every week. Last week I looked at, I think, the red division. Not positive, but it wasn't the orange. That's what I'm looking at this week. So I'm looking at the Real-Time Fantasy Sports Championship orange division. Leader of that is the Bad Company team with 356 points. Not as many owners in these Real-Time Fantasy Sports Championships, so the scoring could be a little lower compared to the Fantasy Championship and the Best Ball Championship as well. But the Fantasy player leads away right now, followed by Steve Fleming. Steve Fleming's a great owner on our site. I've talked to him before as well, and he does a great job, as a lot of times on our site, producing some great teams. So Steve Fleming's in second with 342, 14 points behind the Bad Company team. Let's look at this last week. Kyler Murray, again, common theme. A lot of these top teams is Kyler Murray, off to a great start, just having a huge year. He has Christian McCaffrey as well, Deebo Samuel, CeeDee Lamb, Darren Waller. So good team for this Bad Company team. Good work for him. He has Brandon Cooks as well, a good receiver to have on his bench. So he's in first place in the RTFFC Orange. Let's look at the second place, which is Stephen. He scored 157 points this past week. Patrick Mahomes with 28. Darrell Henderson. Joe Mixon kind of disappointed him. Didn't even reach double-digit points. Still scored 157. Thanks to Tyler Lockett, Mike Williams, and Travis Kelce posting big numbers, 20-plus fantasy points for Steve Fleming. So good work to Steve. He sits in second place right now. He had Rondell Moore on his bench as well, who had a big week. So Steve Fleming's in second place. That's RTFFC Orange. The Real-Time Fantasy Sports Championship Orange fantasy player is Bad Company in first place, followed by Steve Fleming. We have John Neese, Derek Ostman, Jeff Oliva, Thomas Potter, and Robert Martinez is up there, Irish CEO as well, David Foster, Joshua Wright, Ken Stevenson. So all these guys in the mix right now for a chance to win RTFFC Orange. Good job to them. Let's get back to this one right now on our site. So I wanted to go over those. I'm going to do that every week. I want to give a shout out to the players. They deserve it, doing a great job to start the season. I want to give people their due, and a lot of these guys are favorites on our site, and they do a great job. So I'm going to give them most definitely. So I'm going to do that every week. Now let's get back to my mug on here. So I wanted to mention, too, if you have any questions at all, feel free to shoot them in the chat. If you have any questions about anything, I'm more than happy to answer them. So I will do that during the week as well. If you have a question, go to jeff@rtsports.com, email, or you can hit me up on Twitter That's I do a weekly Twitter chat as well every Thursday. One other thing I want to talk about, I like to point out things on our site every week. I want to show you one thing on our site that we do that I think could be beneficial to people. If you ever have any questions about anything at all, we do videos, not just this video. I do these as well, and you can see those on YouTube. We have a YouTube channel. It's called RealTime Fantasy Sports. Shocking, right? So that's the name of the channel. I'm going to show you that right here. Let me get to that screen here. But it's RealTime Fantasy Sports. If you just search on YouTube, you can go to RealTime Fantasy Sports and the channel comes up. But we do these how-to videos. So if you ever have any questions about anything, you don't want to call in, you don't want to search the FAQ, whatever, go to this RealTime Fantasy Sports channel. We have all sorts of stuff on here for your convenience to go over things. You can see right here, using the protected agent function, using the auction draft, how to find your league number, injured reserve. We have tons of video. Look at them all on here. You can modify how to modify your draft while it's in progress, basic draft tools, how to reset your password. Everything's on here. It's very convenient for you to see this. You can just go there and you can see all the different things. I'm sure if you have a question, it's answered in one of these videos, and we step you through it. Sometimes people like to look at stuff visually as well, so you can do that on this YouTube channel. You can see these different videos we have to offer. So I just wanted to point that out. You can also look at all my videos. I do these real-time fantasy sports shows. I'll make this into the video in a video that I can stream on here as well. So you can see that. You can see the last one. I just scrolled over it here, RTSports Weekly, Week 1. But I do other things, waiver wire ads. I do a Sunday morning update every week as well, where I go over all the inactives and actives for the early games. Also talk about any other late-breaking news going on in the NFL. So you can see all those videos here too. So feel free to check it out, our YouTube page, RealTime Fantasy Sports. Subscribe to it. You can see everything we have to offer on there and also get a lot of help from our support staff who made these great videos. So that's the stream for today. Let me look to see if there's any questions from anybody out there. I don't see any on there right now. I appreciate everybody watching though, and good work to everybody leading all of our contests right now. We're just 2 weeks into it, but still awesome to be on top. I want to definitely recognize all those great owners and keep up the good work. So that's the RT Sports Weekly for this week. Looking forward to doing it again next week. Again, if you have any questions, concerns, go to @Jeff Paur on Twitter, or you can email me jeff@rtsports.com. So thanks again for watching RT Sports Weekly. I look forward to doing this again next week. Have a great week and good luck in all of your Week 3 games this week.